What's going on, everyone? My name is Twig, and today we are taking a look at the newly released title called Another Crab's Treasure, an action 3D platformer Souls-like experience that really surprised me with how ambitious and just an overall solid, fun experience it is. I remember first seeing gameplay of it a while ago while watching a video by Iron Pineapple, and I just thought it looked pretty cool and thought it would be a good time. Before we get into the review, I just want to let you know that starting earlier this year, I have been focusing on putting out video reviews here on YouTube, covering games that I get all achievements for. I've been posting written reviews on Steam for a little bit longer than that, so if you're on there, feel free to add me. My profile is public and linked below. I'm trying to get my goal of 700 perfect games by the end of the year, so consider subscribing to join the journey. I'm going to try to keep this review as spoiler-free as possible when talking about the story, but there may be hints of gameplay from later areas or bosses. You play as Krill, a small hermit crab who enjoys a life of solitude kept away from the outside world. All is well until one day he is met by a loan shark who says that he is behind on his taxes and the Duchess requires him to pay up or else his shell will be taken. After not coming up with anything of use, his shell is taken away from him, which leaves him no choice but to pursue. After leaving the immediate area, Krill comes across other crabs who appear to have lost their minds or are possessed, and they end up attacking him. After escaping and finding your weapon, you continue on your journey to do whatever it takes to get your shell back. Another Crab's Treasure is designed to be an approachable experience for newer Souls-like players, as well as provide a challenge for hardcore fans. The devs included assist mode options to help tune the game's difficulty to the player's needs, which is a really cool feature to have. Pick a preset or create a custom one where you can alter things like having more shell durability, reduce the damage taken, lower the health that enemies have, give yourself an extra dodge invincibility, have a larger parry window, you can prevent microplastic, which is like the Souls currency, prevent that loss on death, you can prevent pitfall damage, and you can even slow down the game speed. There is also a bonus item where you can give Krill a gun. I think it is really cool that they included all of these options into the game to help with players who don't have the time to grind bosses or just want a chill experience. Seasoned Souls veterans can still have their hardcore boss challenges, but I would like to see maybe an achievement or two tied to completing the game without these settings altered. There are 4 stats that you can choose to level in this game by using the game's Souls currency called microplastics: Vitality, Resistance, Attack, and MSG, which is magic. Vitality obviously increases the amount of health that you can have, and resistance will decrease incoming damage that your shell takes, along with it also giving you resistance to status effects. Attack is pretty straightforward as you do more physical damage, and lastly, MSG enhances damage of your umami-based attacks, which is basically your special magic ability attacks that we will talk a little bit more about in the combat section of this vid, coming up in just a second. I put enough points into my character to have decent health and have decent attacking power. Another huge part of character progression is the skills tree that you can check out by talking to the moon snail. Here you have 3 separate trees that you can invest points into, and they give you active and passive abilities. The currency that you level these up with is a kind of special purple crystal currency that you can obtain from bosses or enemies that you see around the map with purple eyes, or crystals that you can also find all over the map. You can respec both your stats and your skills by using a shark egg, which you can also buy. As you get stowaways, which are like charms, and as you level up your character, your build really comes to life when facing some of the later game enemies. As you are on your quest to get your shell back, you come across others with their own problems and ideas. From one area to the next as you explore, you get a sense for how far your character has come from the little area that he called home. The different areas in this game make your journey seem long, while also giving you a familiar place to come back safely to in order to upgrade your weapon, buy cool outfits, talk to friendly faces, or just chill and relax. You are given the ability to warp from bonfire to bonfire, or shell station to shell station, pretty early. You might think this would cut down on the feeling of exploring, but I often found instances where I was completely lost until I found a fishing line to drop down and create a shortcut back to the bonfire. Platforming plays a huge part in this game. It almost seems like you're always running and jumping and climbing and hooking and flying around to get to the next piece of land. There is no telling how many times I either got knocked off the ledge, or just straight up fell. By the end of the game, I had the movement almost mastered, and you are put to a test with a pretty cool reward if you can complete the platforming trial. Boss variety was really good in this game. There were definitely some really easy ones with very few attacks, but there were also some that I had to keep retrying over and over until finally conquering them. I don't want to spoil anything, but I did want to mention a few of my favorite bosses. Roland, the obvious bad guy from the time you make it to New Carcinia. His fight kind of creeps up on you because you've been pursuing him for so long. He's nowhere near the last fight of the game, but I really enjoyed his fight. And then I also really enjoyed his partner, Inkerton, the Crab Hunter's fight. Staying up close and personal with him makes timing his attacks really easy, so the fight wasn't the hardest in the game, but the long trek through the depths of the ocean made the setting for the fight great, especially the cutscene before the boss fight. There are around 20 or so bosses, or mini-bosses in the game, so not too bad. Some are required to advance through the story, and some are hidden away in secret areas that are easily missable during your playthrough. Being a Souls-like, combat can either make or break a game. In this game, I think it flows really well with what you're given. Your main weapon is a fork, which you can make stronger by handing in upgradable materials over to the Hammerhead Blacksmith NPC in the lower part of New Carcinia, which is the main city hub. You can upgrade it a total of 5 times, which combined with an attack-focused build will make for a really huge power boost in terms of raw damage, which is the way I played. Each enemy has a stagger meter that we commonly see in Souls-like titles now, that you build up by doing damage to them or parrying them. There are 69 shells in the game, each with their own unique stats and special ability to help do damage or shield you from oncoming attacks. The larger the shell, the more it weighs. The more it weighs, the less agile you are, but the more damage that it can withstand. So you really are able to customize your build to be a tank who can withstand hit after hit, or be a more aggressive dodge roller that likes to play quick and loose. Next, you have stowaways, which are kind of like charms from Hollow Knight. They give you bonuses to help shape your build the way you like. You can increase stowaway capacity through a vendor in the lower part of New Carcinia as well. Adaptations are another huge part to combat. These are your special abilities that you can cast even without a shell on your back. There are a total of 8 in the game, which you can level up by using an NPC that you unlock a little ways into the story. There are some really cool ones that you can use to combo along with your basic attack, and I did want to mention that you can have 2 of them selected at any time to hot swap in between. Not only are some used for combat, but also to access new areas that you hadn't seen before. One of the biggest parts to character progression in combat is the skills tree. You fill it out as you progress through the game and gain more of the purple crystal currency. You are able to pick from 3 different skill trees that have pretty crazy movement abilities, such as a slam attack or a dash attack, to a passive ability that enables you to refill your shell health as you dish out hits. I unlocked the Way of the True Crab first because I like the parry options, but all 3 trees contain really good upgrades, such as the Way of the Hermit giving your shell a second life. And having all 3 of these maxed out really fills out your character to make them OP. Lastly, you can customize Krill by obtaining outfits either from a vendor in New Carcinia for microplastics or finding them out in the wild, like the cool Solaire one that I rocked as soon as I picked up. In total, there are 32 achievements in the game. 20 are associated with defeating bosses or mini-bosses, 3 are unlocked whenever you max out the 3 skill trees, 4 are collection related, and 5 are either connected to the story or are gameplay related. Honestly, finding all the bosses was a little tricky, but that's why it is important to explore each area to the fullest as you play through the game. There are areas that you have to backtrack to once you unlock certain abilities later in the game, so that you can access secret areas and obtain unique items for the rarer achievements. The 4 collection achievements were no doubt the grindiest ones to obtain, as they are in pretty much every Souls-like game. Collecting all shells was a little of a pain, since there was barely any info out with the game being so new. If you get all bosses complete, you should about have all the adaptations for that achievement, since they are all tied to bosses, I believe. Upgrading Krill's fork, which is your main weapon, requires you to obtain 15 pieces of stainless relic, and this was the last achievement that I did obtain. There were about 3 pieces that took me hours of backtracking and exploring to find. The last collection one is the unique helm that you also need for finding all the shells achievement. It has its own dedicated achievement because it makes you perform a long parkour route when you're using your platforming skills. I thought that was pretty cool that they included that in there. Another Crab's Treasure is verified on Steam Deck, so I definitely had to give this one a try. I downloaded it, and to my surprise, it ran great on default system settings. I did turn graphics down low in the game, and to me, it still looked great. The menus look proportional, and the controls feel fluid, giving that I played this game with a controller in my full PC playthrough. Honestly, love seeing more and more games get verified on Steam Deck. Honestly, I was shocked at how much I really enjoyed this game. I knew it would be a fun time going into it, since I am a huge fan of Souls-likes in general, but I can say that I definitely think I got my money's worth on this one. Regular price is $29.99, but it is discounted until May 2nd for 10% off, which comes out to around $26.99, I believe. I put about 20 hours of gameplay into it, and the only real bug that I ran into was the sound going kind of in and out after a long play session of around 8 hours or so. So I restarted the game and it fixed that. It's already been brought up to their attention and has been addressed in the most recent patch, I believe. They're constantly putting out updates on Discord and Steam, fixing things as quickly as possible. My honest thoughts are that the bosses were great. The level design has those moments when you're like, oh, I'm back here. And the shell variety was absolutely awesome. If I were to suggest some things to expand on for the next title, I would say maybe make a few different weapon options, beef up the soundtrack music, especially for boss fights, and make the map where you can go full view instead of just the surrounding area around you. Overall, I really enjoyed my time with this game, and I'm happy that I was able to complete it so close to release. There are a ton of cool games coming out or have already come out that I need to play, so be looking out for the next review. Definitely give this game a try if it piques your interest, because it did not disappoint. I'm not sure what video is coming next, but be on the lookout, like, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.